let's talk about the activity called The World is Not a Rectangle, based on the book by Jeanette Winter. You'll begin by passing out a figure net to each pair of students along with some scissors. But what we want students to do first is we want them to analyze what they see on the paper and talk about what two-dimensional shapes they see on this net before they begin to cut it out and try to put it together. So students may see that I see 2 triangles, there are 3 rectangles. Okay, so we're sharing what two-dimensional shapes there are when we piece together a certain 3-dimensional solid. So then students will cut it out. They will piece the shapes together like what you see here. Okay, so then we're going to have a conversation about the different attributes of 3-dimensional solids. For example, they could explore the triangular prism. They can trace their finger along the edges. They can count the vertices. If students don't remember what these terms are, there are guidelines in the facilitation guide to help you introduce these terms to students. They can also count the faces of each one. Okay, so a couple things to keep in mind is that there are certain shapes that have a little bit different attributes, and sometimes it can be a little bit confusing. For example, on a cylinder or a cone, this part here is not considered an edge because it's not where 2 faces meet together. Okay, this is not called a face because it is curved. This is considered a curved surface, the same on the outside of the cylinder. However, the cylinder does have 2 circular faces because these are flat, and the cone has 1 circular face. The cone also technically, this top part is not called a vertex because it's not where 2 sides meet. It's technically called an apex, so it would not be counted as a vertex. Okay, so then once we are done analyzing the different 3-dimensional solids, you'll read the book to students. It's about a woman who designed very unique buildings, and students will see how she got her inspiration, the types of buildings that she designed. Now, her buildings are not exact 3-dimensional figures like what you see here, but students can make connections and relate to, oh, I might see a cylinder there as the columns, or I see a rectangular prism on the side over there, where the seats are. So the students can make connections between the shapes that they see and the story. So then the story will lead them into the next part of the activity, in that students will then decide how they can design a building. So students will take 2 shapes and decide to combine them somehow. They can use tape to combine their shapes together however they'd like. And they will come up with an idea for what that building could be used for. For example, this could be a chocolate milk storage facility. It could be an airplane, a flight academy or something. The students can be really creative and come up with however they think their building could be used. But what we're trying to do here is combine at least 2 3-dimensional solids, and that is going to form their structure in their building. We then will combine all of the buildings in the class together to create a city. We can then ask some clarifying questions in order to help students really analyze what their city is made of. And we can talk about how many prisms do you see in your city? How many vertices are there? How many faces are there on this one building? And have students start practicing identifying those relationships and counting those different attributes.